Hello, welcome back to the Joy of Code. This is Michael. Today we are going to do some refactoring. Refactoring is changing the code to make the structure of the code better, so that it can later be more easily changed or more easily understood without actually changing the functionality of the code. I've said at the end of the last episode that we have a bit of cleanup to do, that I wasn't quite happy with the way the code looked because it didn't look quite as clean as I would like, and so I'll show you now how to do that. Here we have the code as we have just seen it at the end of the last episode that we have written for our ball scenario, and you see here we've got the balls constructor, and we've got quite a lot of code in here now, half a page of code that does various different things, and there's a whole bunch of code here that about up to here, this stuff that creates the random color, and then there's code that creates a circle and so on. Writing so many different things into a single method, it doesn't matter whether it's the constructor or any other method, is not the best thing to do. We can improve that by breaking that down into more specific, custom-made, smaller methods. The terminology for that, if you want to use the expert terminology, is cohesion. We want to create more cohesive methods. Cohesive means that the method does only one single thing, and that is generally a very good thing. So we want to get something out here. For example, first thing, I want to take the generation of the random color out of here. So I make a method, and I make that a private method, and I will talk a bit more about private and public in a later episode. But private means it will only be used within this class here. It will never be used from outside. I make a private method, and I'll think about what that should return in a moment, and I call it random color. So I want this method to return to me, to give me a random color. And so here what it should return is then obviously a color object. I move all this code here into it. So here, that code I delete here and I put it here. So the generation of all the random numbers for the red, green, blue values and the alpha value I put here, and this creation of the color I delete here and I put it here. And we could, so this is the color object that I'm creating, and that is the color object that we want to return. So if we have a method that returns a value, so this method here is declared to return a color value, then it must have a return statement. And what we do is we just write return in front of this. So here we have a return statement that is we're returning something that has to be of the same type that is declared here. And here we're just creating a new color object and we're returning it from this method when it gets called. So here I'm writing a comment for it. I say create and return a random color. Okay, and then here I can use a call to this method there where I'm having my set color call. I write random color. So here the way this reads now is I'm creating an image and I'm creating a random color object, a random color, and I set that as my color. And then I'm doing the size and I draw my circle and I set that as my image. I can also actually take that out. That is also a separate logical operation. Essentially, you can think of everything that is a separate logical task. You can make as separate methods. Generating a random color is a separate logical task. I can say here private void set my image, and I make that the call here. So I do everything that has to do with setting the image, put it in here, and then I take that method call, and here where that code was, I just call that method. So here I need a comment, set an image with a random sized and colored circle. So, and now if you read the constructor, you can say, first we set our image, then we set the rotation, and we set our speed. That now is pretty easy to read. And then if you want to know more about setting my image, you can look down here and say, okay, setting my image, how does that work? And part of that, we're getting a random color, and you can see, okay, how does that work? And now we have broken it down into 3 separate methods, and each method individually is quite easy to read. Much better style. You should always aim at having short methods where every method does only one particular task. What we have just done here is called refactoring. Refactoring means changing our code structure to make the code structure better, and better means easier to read, easier to modify, without actually changing the functionality of the program. So if I compile this and run this, it now should do exactly the same as before. So I have made no functional changes, but I have made changes in the quality of my code. And that is called refactoring. That's it for today. Bye bye.